This video took 2 months to make, so it better be good. Today we will try designing our own combat system. Something still fairly simple and straightforward, but tactical and cinematic enough to be eventually fleshed out if you so choose. Mainly though, it is about showing you how you can take what you love from other games, mix it up and put it in your game. Which means we start with my 2 favorites. First up, Into the Breach. It's a video game about backwards time travel. Some bugs have started emerging from underground and are threatening the civilian population. And it's up to you and your squad of 3 mechs to kill them off. Skipping the high-level play, which is fun but irrelevant here, the meat of the game is in this 8x8 grid. The objective is to hold out for 5 turns by killing the bugs or otherwise preventing them from damaging tiles with buildings. The turns always start with enemies going first, but they never outright deal damage. Instead, they prepare or telegraph their attacks, which will 100% happen next round if you don't cancel them. Your mechs have a move and an attack. Our big bipedal mech here can punch bugs from up close for 2 damage, pushing them 1 square back. This tank-style mech can shoot projectiles for 1 damage, also pushing the target. And the artillery mech can lob a projectile over distance, dealing 1 damage and pushing everything around the target outwards. There is a lot of pushing in this game. Also, notice how all our attacks always hit, just like the enemies. This makes our turn fully deterministic, but the bug actions, the spawn locations and the map selection overall are all mostly random, which makes up for it. It's really a balance of power. For example, you can block new bugs from spawning by standing on these danger tiles, though your mechs will take 1 damage from blocking. In fact, let me show you a full example game so that you can follow my train of thought. This is a mission about protecting a train as it moves through the region. Here I hesitated a bit about artillery positioning because of the river. I'm considering pushing the train blocking flyer onto a spawn to block 1 emerging enemy while also taking damage. And I guess I verified that mechs cannot shoot from water tiles. The attack order is important because if the bug on my top left goes first, I could push it, killing the other bug on the railroad because the train goes last. Alas, the order was reversed. Here I realized I fucked up and had to reset the whole turn. You get 1 reset each battle. So instead, I'll go block myself. And then try to somehow make it work with my low damage artillery. And then I realized it doesn't matter because that bug is attacking an empty square. Once again, though the attack order doesn't really matter, as long as I leave the square, the beetle will kill the flyer anyway. The only question is where to go with the tank mech to make it useful. Which frees up my artillery to make the beetle block the spawn as a bonus. Just double checking the train won't cross before the beetle fires. And here I spent a long time trying to make this work, to somehow kill both beetles. Here I would not have enough tank mech movement to get into position anyway, to finish the ice beetle. Can't shoot through the train either. Artillery doesn't reach and neither can it hit adjacent tiles, so considering taking self-damage just to save the train. In the end, I realized I can approach this from the other side. Move up the tank mech, and then take its original place with the artillery to finish the bug. And that's mission done. To be fair, this is the game at its very simplest. There is so much more. Environmental hazards like lightning storms, sand dunes that turn into clouds which cancel attacks, cataclysm events that eat up the playing board, airstrikes, want it or not, rocket launches, boss fights and other special objectives, or status effects you can play with, freezing, acid, shields, many other weapons to buy between missions, and abilities to power up and upgrade. And I haven't even mentioned the array of pilots you can meet and play as, or that our trio of mechs is just one squad amongst many more. So what are the takeaways? It's essentially like chess on drugs. Telegraphed attacks always happen unless you cancel them somehow. Positioning is super duper important, as is shifting enemies around. Everything you do is meaningful and critical to success. There is no bonus action to give somebody +1 to hit. The design is flat or shallow, meaning there are almost no dependencies between mechanics, no deep interaction trees. It's all surface level, easy to understand but hard to master. And there is usually an optimal play for each round, and the challenge is getting as close as you can to it. You don't need to roleplay being incompetent to have fun. Now, I want you to forget everything I just said, because it's time to look at my second favorite game, which is nothing like the last one. XCOM is a game about aliens from space invading Earth, and about a group of modern soldiers with guns kicking their ass. Again, there is a lot of higher level play, strategy, soldier management, equipment management, but the meat of the game is in sending your soldiers on turn-based combat missions. On these semi-randomized maps, there is usually some objective. Escorting a VIP, capturing a VIP, destroying something, protecting something else, or just killing everything. You generally have a very limited amount of turns to do that before you lose and your people are captured off screen. There is fog of war, and the enemy alien troops move through it in several groups or pods, and one of the challenges is triggering only one pod at a time, ideally. The turns alternate. You get to act with all your soldiers, then all the aliens get to go, and then all your soldiers go, etc. Individual soldiers work kinda like the previous game. They get a move, which has to be taken before their actual action. That action can be to dash or sprint, as indicated by the yellow squares. Otherwise, the action is mostly shooting a weapon, reloading, using some special ability, or throwing a grenade, and so on. Some powerful actions, firing a sniper rifle, require and consume movement as well, nicely balancing their use. One frequently used action is to overwatch. In D&D terms, that would be a delayed action to shoot any enemies that enter my line of sight. You would typically move a little bit and then overwatch, then move a little bit more and overwatch, and so on, because of how the mechanic of discovering pods is done. You see, when you find a pod of aliens on your turn, they get to spend a move action immediately, generally moving into cover. Chances are that by this point you have moved and acted with most of your soldiers, and are not prepared to deal with the new pod, which means they might kill one or more of you on their upcoming turn. On the other hand, if the aliens walk into your overwatched soldiers, not only can you inflict damage before they hide in cover, but you also have all your guys available and can formulate a good strategy. I know it's somewhat BS, but no more BS than legendary actions. Speaking of cover, there is low cover and high cover. Most waist-level obstacles like rocks, barriers, crates and cars are low cover. You can shoot above it or to the sides of it while being slightly protected. High cover has better protection, things like building walls, phone booths, portable toilets, and anything you cannot see or shoot through. You can only use corners as firing positions. And moving one or more squares away from the edge hides you completely outside the line of sight. Logically, you cannot move through high cover, but you can vault over any low cover as part of your movement. Almost all the cover is destructible, even building walls, great for making a new escape route. A big portion of the tactics here is trying to outflank cover. If you can shoot an alien along a straight line beyond the line of cover, then the cover doesn't matter. your 30% chance to hit becomes like 80%. Yeah, the cover system is probably the best mechanic in this game. Okay, let's finally look at some gameplay. So, this is a scenario about rescuing some civilians, and as you can see, we are already mid-combat. We have 3 enemies. 2 of them are basic-ass troopers, and one is a sectoid, kind of a psionic magical alien. On our side, we have Jessica, a melee-oriented ranger with a badass sword. We have Thomas, who is our special specialist, a technical hacker guy with his own drone floating around. We have Heinrich, a competent grenadier, and finally Maria as a sniper on this high ground. Looking around, we have pretty decent chances to hit these basic troopers, 87 and 85%. But since the sectoid is in full cover, that's only 55%. Let's see what other options we have. Our front guys are out of action, so only Heinrich and Maria are available. We have their movement, as indicated in blue, and a dash in yellow, or more likely a regular action. And so Heinrich, as a grenadier, can launch a fragmentation grenade that basically does damage. And we could do that, although we would need to move a bit closer. Given the lack of other movement options, I think this is our only reasonable spot. Let's take a look at what we could do with our grenades. We could either hit the 2 troopers, or we could potentially hit a trooper and a sectoid. These troopers have 4 health, which is not great as our grenades only do 3 to 4 damage, so we might not even kill them. What we could also do is launching a flashbang grenade, which would disorient everybody. If we can hit all 3, they would reduce their chances of hitting us, though not doing damage is not a great winning strategy. We could also shoot our Gatling gun, but these chances are not great either. Before we commit to anything, let's switch to our sniper and see if we can hit a trooper. I think I'll go for the rightmost one. Let's see if this hits. Oh, fortunately it did. And with our grenadier we can maybe, hopefully, launch a grenade and hit the trooper and the sectoid. Let's hope for 4 damage. Turns out we didn't get it. We might take some damage here. And that's another pod moving in. Great. Now we have 5 enemies active. We don't quite see it, but I think the sectoid is raising an undead zombie. And trooper is probably gonna take a shot. But it seems that he's shooting at civilians instead, which is not great because we need to save them. That's kind of the point of this mission type. Alright, let's figure out what we can do. Since our turn started, we can act with all our 4 people. She can hit the officer or the sectoid with fairly poor odds. And we have no more frag grenades, but we do have a flashbang. That I think I'll save for the rear group, as that will give us a bit of time dealing with the front group. Thomas could move into some cover and try to shoot the trooper, but there is no good cover aside from here, and here we would be exposed to the sectoid. But could Jessica deal with the sectoid? She could, although she would remain in the open. So she is our sectoid plan. Thomas is our trooper with 1 health plan, and with Heinrich we can probably flashbang the rear. Now, I could move here, and that would make for a good shot, but I could also grenade, guaranteed 3 damage. I think I'll try saving the grenade and seeing what happens. The thing to consider is that if we move up close, we will be exposed along the entire line of cover, all the way to the back, which means the enemies in the back can easily move to the side and flank us. But I'll take the risk. That's 91%. It could miss. But I'm hoping it'll hit. And we also got some loot. Alright, next up is Jessica and her sectoid. A close range attack with a sword for high damage. It also got rid of the zombie since there is no sectoid to control it anymore. Now, we have Heinrich, who could flashbang the rear group. We could also shoot directly for 70-ish%. Before we commit, let's try to take a shot with the sniper. Well, hitting the officer wouldn't exactly help us, as he would be still alive. Mind you, it's showing 6 damage on the health bar, but our weapon does actually only 4 to 6 damage. So let's kill the trooper. Flashbang does disorient, reducing their chances to hit. However, they still get to go, that's why we killed the trooper, to make them roll less dice. And this should make us survive for a bit longer. And that's our turn. The officer will probably try to mark us, increasing the chances of hitting again. On our ranger, who is in the open. Oh, that's still a miss.
I'm under fire.
Actually, he's going after civilians. Well, crap. We need to hurry up, otherwise they kill too many and our mission fails. So, what are our options here? Pretty sure Jessica can straight up kill one of them with a sword. But that's our full action. We still need to deal with the trooper, somehow. Unfortunately, Maria is out of ammo, and the only thing she can fire is a pistol for some measly damage, so that won't work. We need to reload. Heinrich could move up, rescue the civilian, and maybe hit one of those guys, though they are in low cover. Maybe Thomas could flank? Yeah, he can move into this cover and flank the officer, so let's do that. Although, there may be a better play, because his grenade could deal 4 damage to the trooper in the back. But let's see our chances here. 84. And it's still not enough to kill it. Well, let's move Heinrich up and see what we can do. At 78%, I'm fairly confident it could work. I guess we could have improved that with the grenade destroying his cover. But that's the game. We can grenade him now for 3 guaranteed damage, and Jessica can kill the other one with a sword. And that's it.
Target neutralized.
Oh, except for some faceless hiding in plain sight as civilians. But we'll leave them for next time. Wrapping up with some observations. It's a beautifully simple system, again. No upcasting of spells, splitting damage by type or halving it due to resistances. It's kinda like chess, it rewards offensive tactics, given that you need to flank or destroy cover all the time. Unlike the previous game, we don't get guaranteed chances to hit. That's actually a good thing here. It forces you to have a plan B, even if that's just hiding behind cover. The challenge comes from switching between soldiers and taking actions in the right order. If we use the grenade to destroy the officer's cover, Heinrich would probably have a 100% chance to hit. This especially applies to mid and late game, when everybody has a ton of special abilities. Also notice how the combat system is optimized for the medium. You can always instantly see chances to hit and where they come from. The game keeps track of the crunch. That's why combat feels so clean and simple. And with all that groundwork done, let's finally design our system. Inspiration-wise, I would like a grid combat system, like XCOM but with the telegraphing mechanic of Into the Breach. This would make players focus more on avoiding and countering attacks rather than just soaking damage, so their characters could have more believable hit point numbers. I don't think I will lean into the pushing mechanics. A regular D&D combat board is too big for that, and it could be too gimmicky. I want the system to evoke that cinematic hero combat feel, not a minigame, even though it could be fun. I do love the dynamics of XCOM, so I'll be stealing the cover system to force players to move around on the board, and the Overwatch mechanic, but not the hit percentages. That's too much number crunch for a human GM. I definitely want to keep those signature teamplay combo moves. Imagine a melee fighter flushing out enemy ranged units from behind trees, while a sniper PC picks them off one by one as they run from that melee fighter. The emergent gameplay type of combos, not mechanically coupled combos. Let's get some visuals in here. Like in XCOM, PCs will have one move followed by one turn-ending action. Again, like in XCOM, there may be some free actions, modifiers, buffs, things to activate before taking the actual turn-ending action. The move has to go first though. The main action is your regular attack, or probably some special ability like casting a spell, a dash for some extra movement, or a generic Overwatch triggered by any enemy that moves in range. It does not cancel the movement or action of that enemy, it just does damage. This will be different for GM-controlled NPCs, which will have their move as usual, but their special ability is replaced by a telegraphed version of that ability. So instead of casting a fireball, players would see an NPC casting some powerful fire spell and could intercept it somehow before the spell is actually cast. Spotting the telegraphing isn't some canonical magical ability, it's just a representation of the player character reflexes and anticipation of the battlefield. As far as turn order, I have some cool ideas for a surprise round, but let's keep this simple. Enemies always start first, and they cannot do regular attacks on the first round just to keep it fair. Then all players go, in whatever order they choose. They may even split their turns. A PC might take a move to get away from another PC's AoE spell, and then take their action after the spell. And then all telegraphed attacks resolve in the order they were created. In practice, we already keep our NPCs numbered in a battle, for tracking hit points, status effects, or whatever, so writing down a sequential list of numbers and ability names should be reasonably bearable. The GM can use a sticky note for each round and hand it to players for strategizing during their turns. After all that is done, the round ends and a new one starts. So no delaying actions, no carryover, do your thing now or lose your turn. Hit point wise, we'll go for something simple here. Substitute your favorite death spiral body part injury system here, if you so wish. We'll estimate movement in squares as well, just again keep it simple. Chances to hit are basically D&D, imagine some armor class system. For the example, we'll ignore any bonuses to hit, just to keep it rolling. Cover is almost exactly XCOM style. Vaulting over low cover, hiding behind high cover to disappear from line of sight, etc. I think I don't want 2 tiers of protection though, so there are enough differences already. So as long as you are in cover and targetable, you are considered in cover. How creative. And you get a coin flip saving throw against any attacks that make it through your armor class. On heads, you get hit, on tails, you don't. If that's not your thing, feel free to use dex or just increase AC or whatever. Any melee attackers completely ignore cover. The impression here is that if you could get into melee range, you can probably maneuver around obstacles, and that includes diagonal melee as well. One last thing. I'll try to make ability descriptions as explicit as I can, but I'm borrowing some terms from D&D 4e, like for spell AoE. I'll also define an NPC overwatched or telegraphed attack as concentration, just so that I can say blah blah cancels concentration and or so and so interrupts the archer without having to repeat the full meaning every time. Please excuse the crudity of this model, I didn't have time to build it to scale or paint it. Let's say the players are escorting a bunch of villagers south and they get ambushed by goblins. 4 archers and 2 warmongers. Per our rules, the enemies go first, so Archer 1 overwatches, Archer 2 telegraphs an aimed shot on a villager, Archer 3 also overwatches, and Archer 4 telegraphs a flu shot on the wizard. Then Warmonger 1 moves up and telegraphs a charge, and Warmonger 2 moves up and overwatches with his axe throw. That's it, that's the enemy turn. Now the players discuss what to do. I mean, they need to avoid villagers getting killed or nobody will follow our heroes. So the sniper PC could deal with one of the archers, possibly. The wizard has some area of effect spells, but not in this round. The tank cannot move and attack without eating up an overwatch or 2. Actually, it turns out the wizard has a simple spell she could use right now, a smoke cloud on somebody. Maybe the villagers, maybe our tank, or both. The disadvantage would allow the tank to provoke the overwatches, but we still have the telegraphed archers. The rogue PC can stealth, move up, but can't reach the archers yet. I mean, she could with a direct path, but she would be left open to attacks. Somebody should probably block the charging Warmonger too. Okay. First, the wizard casts smoke cloud on the tank and some villagers around. Then, the tank moves towards the wizard, eating the 2 overwatches. Note that she's out of actions. She did her action, so she lost any movement she had before that. And she couldn't move because of the overwatches. But the tank still has an action and drags her into cover, so the flu shot has a better chance to miss. The sniper moves into cover and interrupts Archer 2, saving a villager. I mean, he could have just shot for damage, which would also interrupt, but this is a guaranteed ability, no roll. The rogue moves into cover, hides using a special ability, and dashes forward. And that's all the players. Resolving telegraphed actions. Archers 1 and 3 shot their overwatches. Archer 2 lost concentration. Archer 4 shoots the wizard, hits AC, and the wizard flips a coin. And wins. The arrow hits the cover.
Well, it's an even chance.
Warmonger 1 charges the sniper, but is still out of range, so the attack fails. And Warmonger 2 has nothing to overwatch and loses the attack. Villagers scatter randomly. On top of the second round, the GM has the tank or wizard roll a perception check. The tank rolls, succeeds, and sees a dark elf on the upper ledge, casting a big fiery spell. He shouts this to the others. Now the enemies start. Archer 1 overwatches. Archer 2 telegraphs an aimed shot on the villager. No, really, going for it. Archer 3 straight out shoots a villager as a regular attack. It's a hit, and with 1 hit point, a kill. and Archer 4 shoots the sniper through the cover. And misses. Alright, Warmonger 1 moves up and charges towards the squishy villagers in the back. And Warmonger 2 moves up and attacks the tank. And hits. And suddenly, the players have quite a lot to consider. They probably have to somehow stop the Dark Elf casting the fire spell, because that would be bad. They need to move the villagers behind cover to not be picked off easily by the archers, or they need to kill the archers or something. The sniper could shoot multiple targets using his own special ability, but they would have to be moving. The wizard can actually make that happen, but she won't be able to do anything else. The tank is stuck for now due to the overwatches. His player asks the GM whether he could somehow direct the villagers to cover. And the GM would allow a charisma check, but it would take the tank's action. The rogue player says she could either go for the Dark Elf or after the archers. Either would take some movement to do. After some more planning, they act. Sniper sets up a kill zone for 3 out of the 4 archers. Then, wizards cast a fear spell behind the goblin archers, forcing them to move towards the player characters, also interrupting them, triggering the kill zone. That's 3 shots. And 2 hits. Tank goes on to protect the villagers, closes in on Warmonger 1, triggering an overwatch from Archer 1. That hits AC, but the tank goes on for a slam anyway. And hits, pinning the Warmonger to the ground. Rogue needs to deal with the Dark Elf on this turn, so she goes out of stealth, moves up full speed towards the Dark Elf, and shoots a crossbow. And fortunately, hits. The target is in the open, and interrupts the fireball. And that's all the players. And all the Goblin Archers have gone. Warmonger 1 had charge cancelled. Warmonger 2 already attacked, and the Dark Elf spell is snuffed. Villagers scatter randomly. At the start of the 3rd round, Archer 1 moves closer and shoots the rogue. Misses AC. Archers 2, 3, and 4 telegraphed an aimed shot at the tank. One of them should hit. Warmonger 1 is pinned, and Warmonger 2 moves to and attacks the wizard, because why not? Hits, and the Dark Elf casts a grip spell, lifting the rogue off the ground. Now the players get to plan. The rogue needs saving, or she's dead. The tank is about to die as well. Even in cover, that's 3 attacks versus 1 hit point. So is probably the wizard, unless she kites the Warmonger. On the plus side, she can finally do something fun. Deal with all those archers if somebody saves her. The tank says he could do that, but the villagers will be in the open. Sniper could interrupt the Dark Elf, but can't do really anything else. Which, though, would be enough for the rogue to go after the Dark Elf. So, yeah, that's the plan. We hope for miracles with the Warmongers, and just need to buy some time for the rogue. The players act. Wizard casts a chilling ball on the archers, freezing 3 of them. Sniper interrupts the Dark Elf, making the rogue land back on the ground. Tank moves in and shoves Warmonger 2 out of the way. And it's a miss on the damage, but the push still happens. And the rogue, now free, has to choose between the Dark Elf and the remaining Archer 1. And she chooses the elf, runs in and tries to assassinate him. And misses. The Dark Elf is just too agile. Villagers scatter randomly. Well, here we go. Archer 1 flanks the sniper and he shoots. He scores. Archers 2, 3, and 4 are frozen and cannot act. Warmonger 1 uses movement to stand up, throws an axe on a nearby villager. That's a hit. Well, the villager is killed. Warmonger 2 goes to kill the tank with a regular attack. And misses! The Dark Elf kicks the rogue, runs away, and telegraphs casting a translocation spell. What a shit show. So, how would you finish this? Notice a few things. Every action did something interesting, something impactful, and while the actions used a shared language, they felt unique. Only the sniper could reach that far away, only the tank could absorb so much damage. There was no reskinning of abilities that make the target flat-footed one. It also gives the GM a knob to crank the tension up and down. If the combat is too easy, do more direct attacks. If it is too hard, do more telegraphing and overwatches. Sure, it wasn't polished, but that's not the point of these exercises. Also, yeah, most community D&D 5e maps just suck at grid combat. They rarely align any objects with the grid and often don't even bother to make corridors a multiple of the grid. The secret is to look for D&D 4e maps, which needed the grid by design and are often much more suitable for this little combat system. But, do whatever. I'm not your father. It's your idea now.